want some more.
What?
Please, sir. I want some more.
More? What's going on, you guys? Theo here with the big review, back yet again with another King of Fighters All-Star video, and it is Saturday. That means that we are going to take a topic, we are going to sit down, we are going to discuss it, we're going to relax, and we are going to just have ourselves a bit of fun. So before we jump into this week's topic, which is, of course, what else would it be, the 7 Deadly Sins collaboration, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So this week's topic is going to be all things the 7 Deadly Sins collaboration event. And so the first thing that I feel like I need to discuss is the thing that seems to be the biggest discussion right now in the community, and that is going to be the absence of Gouthur and Esknar, especially Esknar, which seems to be the name that I'm hearing everywhere. And I apologize if that intro triggered you, but trust me, I'm on your side. So when it comes to the characters chosen here, right, and I guess I should let you guys know, for those of you who are new here and have never heard me say this, I don't have a horse in the race when it comes to 7 Deadly Sins. I have never actually sat down and watched much of any of the series. I'm not necessarily versed on it whatsoever. I pretty much am neutral to the situation. And so when it comes to that, all I really care about, my only horse in the race, and I'm mature enough to be okay with these collaborations being things that I don't necessarily have interest in. They're not marketing this game for me on a personal level. So therefore, I'm not upset whenever they announce these collaborations and they aren't necessarily something that I care about. That doesn't bother me whatsoever. It's, in my opinion, people who get triggered and just decide to dog and drag these types of things in front of the fan base and just make people feel bad about these collaborations when they're trying to enjoy it and they are hyped themselves. I just, it's a bad look. Don't do that. It just makes you look like a jerk. Just don't. I mean, you can have an opinion, but there's no reason to make other people feel bad. So, when it comes to this, I don't really, again, have much of an opinion on the fact that they chose this. We kind of already knew 7 Deadly Sins was going to happen in the first place at some point because, let's face it, with how big Grand Cross is, we knew at some point down the road Netmarble was going to choose this. But what I do have a problem with is the fact that they decided not to include Esknar in here especially. Now with Gouthur, I'm going to admit I don't really have any knowledge of Gouthur whatsoever. I had never even heard the name before this collaboration. However, Esknar is a name that I've heard a ton, because I have heard a ton of people talk about Esknar, you know, whether they talk about, you know, the fact that he is a main character or the fact that he's their favorite character, whatever the case may be. People talk about that character all the time, which is curious to me as to why they would choose to leave him off of this, because they had to have known that this character was beloved by the fan base of 7 Deadly Sins. I mean, shoot, they run Grand Cross, so they have to have known. And it's strange to me that they would choose to go this direction and upset people this way, because really the biggest thing that I'm excited for when these collaborations come around is getting an influx of new players, getting new eyes on the game, getting it exposed to a new player base, and that is really what these collaborations at their core are about. It's about introducing a new set of eyes to the community and to the game. And unfortunately, even though I feel like the majority of 7 Deadly Sins fans are happy with this for the most part, you know, they're excited to see this stuff in the game, but at the same time, there is a healthy amount of them that are upset about the character choices, and I get it. I really do. If say your favorite IP was introduced into a game and you were really excited for it, and then all of a sudden they decided, okay, well, here's who you're getting, and your favorite character or one of the main characters that you would just assume by default would be included isn't there, well, I can see where you'd be upset. However, I don't think that it should be something that ruins anything for anybody at the same time. I mean, you are still getting a lot of characters here. You're actually getting 2 free Fest characters with this as well. So for those of you who are just downloading the game and have never played this game before, having access to 2 free Fest characters right off the bat, who are probably going to be pretty decent, that's really good. So there are things that are nice about this, but at the same time, I totally get it, and I understand where you're coming from, and I don't understand where Netmarble went wrong here. I don't know why they decided to go this route. But the Esknar situation, I don't really see a solution to. It's going to be what it's going to be. If you're holding out hope that they're going to announce even more characters, you should probably stop, because they're not. Yesterday during the Korean live stream, they pretty much confirmed that the characters we saw, plus 2 alternate costume versions of those characters, being Meliodas and Elizabeth, are going to be the free characters. So we know exactly what we're getting. We pretty much have confirmation at this point, unless they are going to completely change course and surprise the absolute heck out of us. Now, I know some people also on the Esknar train had pointed out in the teaser trailer that the photo that we had thought was Esknar in that teaser trailer, which looked kind of like his shoulder, his trapeze, this area. Yeah, I don't believe that that's going to end up being anything, guys. That very well could have been one of these other characters, and it's such a dark, blurry photo to begin with. That one in particular is very tough to tell anything from. It could be anything, so I really don't think that you should read too much into that. At this point, we're getting what we're getting. Now, as far as this collaboration goes, there's a couple of things I'm still very curious about. Now, for those of you who might have missed the fact that there is actually a Korean version of the website for the collaboration that confirms a few more details when it comes to this collab. Primarily, there will be stones for these characters again, like what we saw with Seven Knights, and it sounds like they're going to be farmable, which is nice. But for those who are worried about these characters being weaker than Seven Knights, right? Because I've heard that a lot too. People are talking about how, oh, well, Seven Knights was super broken, these characters are good, but they're not great, they're actually kind of lackluster, blah, 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 blah. Yes and no, right? So the big thing that you have to keep in mind with Seven Knights was the fact that the reason Seven Knights was so over the top, they were good characters in general, don't get me wrong, they were very strong. But what made them over the top was their stones. And so when you look at these characters at face and without any type of kind of buffs to them from stones and things like that, yeah, you're only seeing part of the picture. Now, granted, the stones probably aren't going to have effects that are going to completely reshape some of these characters who need the help the most, because some of these characters I really don't think are going to be meta. But there are some of these characters that are going to be very popular, and you can already tell. Like, for instance, I can already tell you, because yesterday I had hardly had a chance to examine these kits much at all, and Meliodas is going to be really, really strong. He's going to be really good. Actually, he has a kit that almost reminds me of, not quite, it's a little bit weaker actually, than, say, a Lady Zero, with his penetration ramp that he has, which is what causes Lady Zero to be such a monster. But for him being what I believe, if I remember correctly, he's a defensive type unit, for him to have that on top of the fact that he also has darkness, so he has a dot as well, he's actually going to be really, really good, guys. Like, he looks really good. And honestly, other characters like King looks really good. Merlin looks pretty good. Some of these characters look really strong in general. Now, characters like Diane, characters like Ban I think is going to be kind of fun. I think he might actually be kind of decent for, we'll have to wait and see. Yes, he doesn't have dots and things like that, but being that he has really nice stats, along with the fact that he has some kind of ridiculous and nutty resets on his cooldowns in his kit, once he gets stoned out and you get the stones on him, once he gets stoned, he's gonna look pretty good, I think. I don't think he's going to be necessarily a top tier meta character, but I think he's going to be a pretty good character. And that's what I think the case is going to be for some of these characters in general. They're just going to be kind of on the pretty good side of things. And I know everybody wanted these, and that's where another talking point actually that I wanted to bring up. So everybody wants these characters to be OP and busted, right? Where were you guys when Seven Knights came out and everybody set the forums on fire and was upset about the collaborations being too strong and wanting them to be reined back a little bit? Like, how do we want this, guys? Do we want these collaborations to be so broken that they make all the other characters in KOF look like crap by comparison? Or do we want these characters to be balanced? And that's where I'm at with that. Like, I was shocked because I thought these characters, just looking at them on paper, yeah, they're pretty good, but they're not anything like, oh my god, the game is broken. But then everybody started getting upset when I would have figured that everybody would have been like, oh, okay, it's balanced. Like, that doesn't necessarily make sense to me, because the 7 Nights, for those of you who were new during the 7 Nights event, who may not have frame of reference, 7 Nights was an outlier. All the other collaborations that we had up until that point, we had only had maybe 1 or 2 characters that hung on from those collaborations to the meta in any way, shape, or form that still managed to be good 6 months down the road. 7 Nights was a completely different monster. It was a outlier situation, and it probably had everything to do with the fact that it's Netmarble's baby, and they wanted to make it as good as humanly possible. I get that, and that was something we had all joked about even before they had announced what the characters were and what their effects were. We had all joked about they were probably going to make them the most broken collaboration in the game, and then they did. But I think that trying to kind of set the bar at 7 Nights as far as what we should be seeing going forward, I do believe that was probably a mistake on an individual level and not necessarily something that was ever grounded in reality. And that was why I didn't really understand the kind of, I don't want to say overblown hype around kind of killing the unified banner wholesale, because yes, these characters are stronger than most unified banner characters on release. That is true, at least in some cases. But at the same time, do you really want power creep that consistent? Wouldn't you rather these characters be baseline with everything else we have in the game and not completely reshape the meta? Because I know I would. I'm happy with where this is at for the most part. Now, if you're a 7 Deadly Sins fan and you're somebody who just wants your characters to be OP and broken, I get that, but this is King of Fighters All-Star, not 7 Deadly Sins All-Star. So, being that your characters are in a really good spot for the most part, like some of these characters are definitely going to be meta, that you're fine. Everything's fine. Just don't worry about it. It's cool. These characters are going to be relevant. Don't worry about it. Are all of them going to be relevant? Well, no. But that's never the case with any collaboration, you know, outside of 7 Nights, which again was an outlier. So overall, when it comes to all this stuff, I feel like as a neutral party involved, everybody just needs to kind of calm down. However, what I will say, and something that kind of the cooler heads should take into account that probably have already realized, anytime we get a new collaboration, we have this kind of talk. Everybody freaks out, everybody gets upset, everybody gets mad about one detail or the other, and then everybody starts to calm down once it drops because they start to get excited, they get their hands on the characters, they enjoy the characters, they're having fun with the characters, and the events are things that keep them preoccupied, and everybody ends up looking at it and going, you know what, it's not too bad. So I feel like that is kind of the position the game is in right this moment. I feel like everybody is going to get to that point here in the next few days, but at the same time, I do agree with the Esknar stuff. I don't understand the idea behind not having him in here, because even for a layman like me who had no idea what 7 Deadly Sins was, I would have assumed he would have been there, so that pretty much tells you what you need to know about that, because he seemed to be a big face for the franchise. But as far as kind of the status of these characters, the power level of these characters, they're fine. Wait for the stones. The stones will make them OP, and then everybody will be talking about how they're too good, and then it will reverse the conversation to, oh my god, why do these characters have to be so strong? This is stupid. This is a KOF game. It goes on and on, guys, but I think you guys get my point. So the last thing I want to kind of talk about here is I want to make sure to kind of reiterate to you guys, we are going to be getting a lot of new players into this game in the next few days. Be nice to them, guys. Like, let's all pull it together. This channel has always been about community and trying to be nice to people and help people out and try to make this community a better place for everybody. Something that is more educational so people have information that they can get. Try to answer questions. Try to be good to the new players. try to be inclusive to them, welcome them, try to cultivate them, give them the information that they ask for if they are asking questions on how to do something or whatever the case may be, because you were new too once. So keep that in mind. But anyway, guys, that is going to be this week's Saturday Chat and Chill. You guys let me know in the comments section what you think about all this stuff. I pretty much have laid out how I feel about things here for now, but if you haven't already done so, smash the like button and subscribe. I appreciate each and every single one of you. I will see you guys in the next video. You all enjoy your weekends. Peace.
Continue.